So as we get into this week's program, we left off yesterday. Oh, my broadcast yesterday, I guess, would be last Friday on Nehemiah about verse 14. Okay, what has been going on, and we looked at this, I think Thursday and Friday last week, about according to the highlight over the chapter, the conspiracy against Nehemiah. Okay. Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, and the rest of the enemies, they're still up to their same old trick, and they're trying to, and we talked about the enemies within as well as the enemies without. There were enemies out, and sometimes those enemies on the outside are very easy to identify. But it's sometimes those little squirrely inside enemies, they're a little bit tougher to say. Well, I thought, and he seemed, well, and what happened was, in verse 10 is that Nehemiah goes to the house of Shemaiah, okay, and finds out that he was a secret informer. This guy is, I think it's Tobiah. This guy had kind of a connection with Tobiah. So because of that, and not only him, but there were other people that had a connection with Tobiah. So verse 10 says he came to the house of Shemaiah, okay, and who was a secret informer. And see, Shemaiah says, hey, let's go into the house of God. Let's hide. Let's get away. And let's, because the threat, the clear and present danger is right around the corner and they want to get you, buddy. And he finally says, you know what? What kind of example is that I'm going to leave with the rest of these people if I just, run away and then let the Shemaiahs, I'm not the Shemaiahs, it would have been the Sanballats, the Tobiahs, and the Geshems of the world destroy the people. If they're really coming to bring war, because we have constructed the wall and we've taken their power, their authority, we've actually slipped the rug out from underneath them. And if they're really coming, why should I hide and let the rest of the people be prey to these enemies of ours? And Nehemiah finds out that Shemaiah is really more on their side than he's on his side. He's probably trying to play both sides. That'll get you in a lot of trouble. Got to figure out, that's the carnal man. Shemaiah talks, if you went to the 3rd chapter of 1 Corinthians, you're going to see where, and depending on what translation you use, the man of the flesh, the carnal man, different ways. In fact, let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 3 real quick and go through a few different translations and see what it talks about the carnal man, okay? Let's see. You are acting like people of the world, the CEV says, okay? ESV says, but as people of the flesh, okay? ISV says, you're acting like worldly people, all right? Other ones like the King James and the New King James will say you're acting like carnal men, okay? All of those from different translations to convey the same information. And this is what Shemaiah was. Shemaiah represents the carnal man. He is under the covenant, but he's more attached to the world than he is to what God is doing. God is in the middle of bringing restoration into Jerusalem. The work has been going well. We have found out that the wall was rebuilt in 50 some days. I don't know, 52, 50. It was less than 2 months when the wall had been finished. And a lot of things is going on. The fortunes of the people of Jerusalem, these who have come back over the last few years, and I believe we had figured out it was about the last 14 years or so, that these people that had come back from Babylon, from the Persian Empire, I think it was first the Babylonian Empire, and then Persia took them over, and same area of the world. It was just different empires that were there, and the fortunes are changing. They've changed when what was the first guy that came in the book of Ezra? Can't remember his name right now. And then Ezra comes later. Okay, and then after Ezra comes, Nehemiah comes, and with each and every one of them, the fortunes of the people who were completely down, they were completely destroyed. They were in a very bad state in every area of their life, and these guys have all come with a little piece of the puzzle, and they're starting to grow. They're starting to get the vision of God in their lives. It's more than just the wall that was being built. It was more than just the temple was being built. It was building up a people. And then you have the carnal man, Shemaiah, in the midst of it, which is always, I tell you what, in my estimation, the carnal man is the most dangerous person in the church. And the Bible talks, the New Testament talks about this carnal man, not just in the 3rd chapter of 1 Corinthians, but you look at the New Testament, and you know one time Paul is writing to the church at Galatia, and he says, "Oh, you foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" They're getting off the path. They're getting off the straight and narrow. They're going into that wide road that leads to destruction. Oh, it looks very good. Oh, and it looks like if it's leading to a big city, but it's a worldly city. It's not the city of our God. And here we see Shemaiah, and he's a secret informer. He's just sitting there looking to see how he can throw another wrench into the gear and see what's going to come. Well, I don't know. We'll see if Sanballat starts winning. And right now he's throwing his lot more with the Sanballats and the Tobias and the Geshems of the world. He says, let's sneak away. Let's hide ourselves because they're coming. And he says, am I going to hide? Should such a man as I flee? And who is there such as I who would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. He says, how can I go in and leave these people? Who's going to lead them? Who's going to be there for them? In fact, I don't even believe that anything's happening. He's heard of all the threats that have come against him. Verse 12, then I perceived that God had not sent him at all. Why did he even pay attention to him? Because he was a covenant brother. Because he was of the Jewish family. He was not some guy outside. He wasn't an Ammonite or an Ashdodite. He wasn't a Philistine. He was of the covenant. So he listens to him, but he discerns right away. This guy's really not with us. This guy's really not on God's side. This guy really doesn't have the vision and understand. I mean, he's just throwing the dice and see, which way he's going to go. Then I perceived that God had not sent him at all, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me because of Tobiah and Sanballat that had hired him. So watch out with that carnal nature that each and every one of us has. You could very easily say, oh yeah, I know who that carnal guy is. He sits 3 rows away from me at church. Wait. Before we get that, realize that there is a carnal nature in each and every one of us, that the carnal man sometimes is just going to do everything that he can do. And if you can't recognize it in yourself first, you're really not going to recognize it in anybody else. And we have to realize is that we have to stay on that straight and narrow. We have to stay on that path that God has. But there will be people within your own fellowship, congregation, family that sometimes really don't have an idea, have a clue of what's going on, and they're really against what God is doing in your life.